just got to tie off this Eliezer existential crisis type thing. So we talked about Foom. We sort of defined it. You think it's very unlikely that AIs sort of like destroy humanity or accidentally, or they literally go to war with us or something like that. But I want to maybe ask, like, so David said that it was difficult to follow the Eliezer conversation because it was technical. I actually think it was less that for me anyway, personally. It was more because the premise was so simple. We've seen dangerous technologies in the past. Anybody, Bankless listener, watch the Oppenheimer movie recently? And the whole movie is about this like chain of events where the scientific community discovers some dangerous technology, essentially, and what like this chain of events that could lead to global Armageddon and the ending of humanity. And so now we're at the precipice of this new discovery. We're in like these times where, oh my God, you can talk to a computer and it's passed the Turing test and it sounds like a real person. And this is amazing. It generates art like we've never seen before. And we are all wondering whether this is one of those technologies that has the potential to destroy everything. And like, it's very seductive, I think, for Eliezer to be like, yeah, imagine if, we split an atom with kind of like everybody could do that in their microwave, let's say. And imagine that was like given, that kind of level of power and technology was given to every human being. We democratize it in that way. Well, what would happen? It'd probably be the end of life as we know it. And so like, I still have this base question, Beth, of whether AI is like dangerous or not. Is it similar to nuclear weapons? Is it similar to biological pandemics that somebody could cook up in their basement? Or is it different somehow? Because I feel like a lot of this conversation hinges upon that question. I mean, you were advocating an EAC for growth, right, versus degrowth. And I sort of understand that everybody wants growth over degrowth. Deacceleration is my thing. But I think another framing that people like Eliezer might have is it's growth versus safety. Like, Bev, you were going all gas, no brakes here. Like, we're worried. What if this technology is dangerous? What's your take on this?
Yeah, so the analogy, I think, if everybody could split the atom in their microwave, we'd have quite a bit more energy being produced on the grid, and that would be net positive. I think, like, runaway effects of, like, if you have a chain reaction that becomes a bomb, of course that's bad, but obviously it seems to be like, creating a nuclear weapon is very involved, and not everybody has access to it. And the thing with nuclear weapons is it's pure downside, right? Like, the only utility to nuclear weapons is like, damaging your enemy, and it's like a deterrent, right? Whereas AI, there's huge upside to creating AI and leveraging AI in everything we do. It gives us intellectual and operational leverage. It helps, create economic value. It helps solve all our problems. It helps us live better lives. It's going to save lives, right? In medicine, right? It's going to make things cheaper. It's going to help us build cheap housing. It's going to help us, save on legal bills that are, ballooning, right? You're going to have LLM lawyers. You're going to have LLM doctors. Everybody on the planet is going to have access to some of the best doctors ever. You're going to have personalized medicine, right? Like, the list goes on. Like, a lot of our problems that are pain points in our modern society will be solved with cheaper intelligence. And there is an urgency to make that happen, similar to how, let's say, fear-mongering about nuclear weapons actually kind of killed the nuclear fission energy industry. Right now, it's overregulated to oblivion. There's so much red tape, like, most of your budget building a nuclear reactor is towards compliance, and that's suppressed the advent of and ubiquity of this technology, and it's caused us to have to go to all sorts of wars all over the place for energy, right? So this mind virus of anti-nuclear was actually net detrimental, and we're kind of like waltzing into a similar scenario with AI. If we overregulate it in the womb, we're not going to see the massive upsides to it. I think that what's dangerous with AI, and we're very transparent about this, AI is information is power. Intelligence allows you to extract more utility out of less information. And so it confers you power, right? And if you have a big delta, a big difference between the capabilities of centralized entities and that of the people in terms of AI, then you have the opportunity for sort of AI assisted tyranny. And to us, that's the highest existential risk because there's a very strong prior that if you give all the power to a centralized party, it becomes corrupt, and then it abuses that power and oppresses people and causes mass suffering. And to us, like putting AI, which yes, it will make AI, whoever has advanced AI in their hands will become formidable. But if everybody is, not equally formidable, but, in a similar range, then no one party is going to have too much power over the other and going to completely dominate the other, right? It's just sort of adversarial equilibrium. And that is sort of what we're advocating for with EHAC, is sort of freedom of access to compute, freedom of access to AI, right? We don't want these centralized entities, just like a central bank, like inflating away your money, to control access to advanced AI. We want it in the hands of many, because otherwise, the centralized parties are going to abuse their power. And so, to me, I think that, yes, AI is potent. If you only focus on tail risks, you can convince yourself to kill anything in the womb. But there's also massive upside that shouldn't be discounted. And there's not enough, we don't talk enough about the massive upside we're leaving on the table. And the reality is that most likely what will happen is that some nations or some cultures will embrace AI. Some will want to ban AI. Those that ban AI are going to be left behind and massively disadvantaged. And those that embrace it are going to be economically prosperous, will outgrow those that have banned it. And so you want to be in the fork, right? Just similar to the crypto fork. You want to be in the cultural fork that embraces AI and integrates it into their lives, into society, and leverages it to become formidable and grow, right? And there are ways forward to, leverage AI and merge with it. I mean, we're already, we're using like smartwatches and smartphones, and now Apple Vision Pro, is going viral. We're already augmenting ourselves. The notion of human, of a human individual is getting sort of diluted or eroded. We already leverage exogenous sources of intelligence, right? We use Google search, Perplexity, whatnot, all day, every day. And I think that just focusing on like, oh no, humans will be left behind. It's like, no, but like the notion of human will drift to encompass a human and maybe their fleet of AIs that do their bidding. And then you become this sort of formidable being. And that's the sort of awesome future we want to have, where you're quasi immortal. You have like, AI customizing your biology, and you have sort of AI augmentations in every way possible. And I think that sort of optimistic future, we got to paint the picture of that future rather than painting the picture of the doomer future where like AI takes over, which again, I don't know how it would do that if there's other powerful AIs keeping it at check from parties that aren't necessarily aligned with that party. And again, I don't believe in sort of fast takeoff in AI. I think it's not well founded. And so like if you don't necessarily think that the likelihood of this fully existential doom is high from like just pure ASI, then the biggest threat vector becomes sort of authoritarianism, sort of censorship, right? If you only have AI in the hands of a few and they use it for information control and cultural control, then they can basically psyop you and control you, right? And that is very dangerous, because if only a few parties that are, government-backed cartel control LLMs and they become our sources of truth, then they control you. And they can like use that to consolidate their control and consolidate their power. And now we live in a sort of dark age where we don't have open access to knowledge, we don't have open access to compute, and we can't fight this sort of top-down control with AI, with our own AIs that would help us filter and counter sort of this psychological manipulation. And so that's the dark future we're trying to avoid. So getting AI in the hands of many, into every org, and accelerating makes it very hard to sort of acceleration is a hedge against sort of top-down control and maybe a centralized party taking over, killing variants, killing, like you can only, use AI this way and taking control of the whole technology, because that would be the bad future we're trying to avoid. Anyway, so we kind of have our own existential risks, right? Like we think like authoritarianism and centralized control is sort of that's the bad scenario. It's based on like data from history, right? There's a lot of bad things that have happened historically when that happens, versus sort of sci-fi based priors of like, I read too many books on the Terminator, I read too many 90s sci-fi books about nanotechnology, and I think like AI is going to figure out how to turn us into gray goo, which not plausible.
So Beff, you basically you think like P Doom is kind of like a failed kind of calculation. What we should be doing is P utopia, right? And then also like the risk on the risk side, it's like probability of totalitarianism. So like let's do that calculation too.
Yeah, P 1984, right?
P 1984.
To continue leveling up your crypto game, then you need to get on the Bankless newsletter. It's the world's most popular crypto email and is completely free. Just click below to sign up.